NTR.
Goedenavond en welkom bij College Tour. Vanavond echt een bijzondere uitzending, want we hebben een historische gast. Ze noemen hem Arch. En samen met Nelson Mandela is hij het symbool van de strijd tegen de apartheid. En nog steeds vecht hij tegen onrecht en hypocrisie. Dit is zijn allerlaatste reis naar Nederland, heeft hij gezegd, want hij wordt dit jaar 81 jaar oud. En daarom interview ik samen met de studenten hier in het stadhuis in Deventer de winnaar van de Nobelprijs voor de Vrede, aartsbisschop Desmond Tutu.
Sorry.
Thank you so much for coming.
It's wonderful to be here.
Is this really your last trip?
Yes.
Yeah. We're very happy and delighted that you are here today. It's a student show. The guys are going to ask you questions. But first of all, what kind of student was Desmond Tutu when he was the age of the people here?
He loved girls.
Then you came to the right place.
Yes, I mean, they are really confusing me. The choice is too wide. They are lovely, yeah. And the guys are not too bad.
Yeah.
I think we had fun. I mean, you know, not serious, but you did want to do well.
And you were an excellent student. You were so good at studying that you were sent abroad. You studied in London. So you left apartheid in South Africa and you came to London where there was no such thing as apartheid. How was it for you to walk the streets of London and being treated almost like anybody?
I was treated like anybody. I mean, what do you mean, almost like anybody?
Because...
What do you mean?
Because there are always people who wouldn't do it.
It was quite amazing. I mean, it was quite extraordinary. We would be walking with my wife, and you have a London bobby, and we ask for directions, and he says, no, sir, yes, sir, no, ma'am, yes, ma'am. Well, in South Africa, he would have been asking me, where is your pass, the document to prove that you should be here? It was such an experience that afterwards, my wife and I would sometimes go up to a policeman and ask for directions, even when he knew where we were going.
We have heard now in these few minutes that we are talking your giggle, which will come back through various persons that we have spoken to for this show about you. Let's first have a look. The famous Tutu giggle.
I go for the beautiful things first.
Yes, I know, I see.
Stay healthy. Stay happy.
Where did you get that?
We stole it from people. Let's open up this hall and see what kind of questions the students have for you. Here you go.
In Netherlands, we hear about Africa mostly through celebrities, Western celebrities, and not so many directly, like people as you from Africa. So what are we missing because of that, and what can we learn from Africa?
In our part of the world, we speak of something called Ubuntu. Ubuntu, which is the essence of being a human being. A person is a person through other persons. And in the traditional community, you don't eat in separate plates. You eat out of one dish because we say we belong together. You notice, I mean, in Europe, it's a very good thing. I mean, you develop your individuality, your individualism, so that you are lonely in a crowd.
Okay, so we should learn to share food, and
What?
so we should learn to share food.
Of course. I mean, if you eat alone, you get too fat.
Next one.
Grace, I'm Tibetan living in Netherlands. Since you're very familiar with the situations in Tibet, I would like to ask your guidance. What advice would you give for the group who tried to resolve the political differences through non-violent, like Tibetan people?
Yes.
Yes.
You are a wonderful people, and you have an incredible leader
Yes.
in His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. He has an incredible serenity. I asked him last year, I asked him, why are they afraid of him? Does he have tanks and guns? He doesn't. Nothing. I mean, he's got nothing except his goodness.
But the question was,
Yes, I mean,
the
what you
violence. Should you use violence for a freedom struggle like ANC did in South Africa? Because for over 50 years, the Dalai Lama has been struggling,
It's
and
non-violent.
Yeah.
to no avail yet. Violence or non-violence?
Yes, well, I think, I mean, that you have to keep holding on to what the Dalai Lama says. Eventually, it doesn't say immediately, eventually, you are going to win.
Yes.
You are going to win, as we did. I mean, even though it was for them a last resort. And I'm not a pacifist. I'm not a pacifist, but I am a lover of peace.
It's such a difficult dilemma because would
absolutely.
have your country be freed of apartheid without guns and bullets from
No,
ANC?
but I mean, I don't think that would have, we would not, I don't think we would have been liberated by that. What worked, what worked were sanctions. That is what broke the back of the, as it were, the camel. It was the sports boycott. South Africans are sportsmen, but when they could not play rugby, they could not play cricket against other countries, those are the things that got to the South African public, and they saw that their country was gradually going to become so isolated that it would not be viable. And one hopes, I mean, that more people would come to the support of the Tibetans. And yeah, it might not look like you are winning, but know that you are on the winning side. Ultimately, it is a moral universe. Right will ultimately prevail.
Let's have a look at your struggle with Nelson Mandela and many others to get rid of apartheid.
More than 500 youths are killed as the violence spreads across the country, then under white minority rule. The bloody uprising galvanizes the movement against South Africa's apartheid regime.
Now they say to us, Kona, you black people, don't go into God's sea, because God's sea here is white. God's sea? What? I mean, this is God's sea, this is our country, and we are claiming what is ours.
I call upon you, Desmond Tutu, to come to the rostrum and receive the Nobel Peace Prize for 1984.
Millions of blacks inside South Africa are convinced that the revolution will come.
The Berlin Wall fell, and the walls of apartheid are falling.
Nelson Mandela's first steps back to freedom.
What have we said to racism? What have we said to injustice? What have we
It's an incredible story.
It is amazing. Because actually one of the things that people forget is that Nelson Mandela was relatively young when he went to prison, and he was angry. Suffering, you know, suffering can embitter you, but suffering can also ennoble you. Mercifully for us, the 27 years that he spent in jail, far from making him bitter, helped him to become a magnanimous, a caring, an understanding human being. He could understand the position of the other, the point of view of the other. He has an incredible gift to our country, an incredible gift to the world.
Mr. Tutu, I spent an international semester at the University of Pretoria and noticed racial tensions still exist in South Africa. Do you think the possible passing away of Nelson Mandela may increase these racial tensions?
Yes, I sometimes think, I mean, that we are not always too realistic. We think, I mean, that because we have made the transition from apartheid to a democracy, that it's like a magic wand. But even today, there is racism. It's not something that you can wipe. I mean, it is that the laws of the country. But you see, the law can't make you love someone. The law can make it. Martin Luther King said, you can't legislate to make them love me, but at least you can legislate to stop them from lynching me. And that is important. Oh,
there he is.
Yes.
It's a very interesting question, because what will happen with South Africa when Nelson Mandela is gone, when many of this very famous and influential generation, because we saw 3 weeks ago these terrible images on television of the miners. Let's have a look what happened there.
Yeah.
Zuid-Afrika is altijd een gewelddadig land geweest. Er zijn iedere dag in het geval zo'n 45 mensen vermoord in Zuid-Afrika. Dat is heel veel. Het blijft een gewelddadig land. Ik denk dat wat terechtgekomen is vanuit de visie van Desmond Tutu helaas is veel minder dan hij zou hebben gehoopt 20 jaar geleden. De consequenties van de apartheid voel je nog steeds in Zuid-Afrika. De blanken zijn gewoon in het algemeen rijker dan de zwarten.
And we think that the democracy is fine for us because we are from the apartheid time. But now I think we are democratic, but now it looks like bad apartheid.
Dus de toekomst van Zuid-Afrika ziet er niet zo goed uit vanwege zijn grote politieke problemen. Er moet iets belangrijks gebeuren in de politiek in de volgende jaren. Maar wat dat zal zijn, niemand weet.
The Honorable asked President Jacob Zuma to resign. Jacob Zuma has been judged by God. He is no longer the leader of this country.
Do you understand the miners who are striking? And when you saw these images of the shooting, I mean, so close by, more than 35 people got killed.
Yeah.
Did it remind you of images in the past?
It was awful. I mean, it is awful.
Sharpeville, I mean, did it come to mind?
It is awful. I had an outburst. I was asking, what has happened to us? Remember also, you know, I mean, we've forgotten that we are a wounded people. All of us, black and white, are wounded people, and that we are going to be needing a heck of time to recover from the trauma of apartheid.
Any people from South Africa here? You are from South Africa. Are you worried about the future of your country?
Yes, definitely. I think for some few years we thought we had a progress, and then the Youth League came into board and they just started ranting and raving, and you see like, okay, we do have the mines, but if you don't have the money to expenditure it, if you could say that, then we're in trouble, because I think in the coming 20 years, does my kids have a future in South Africa? And I think personally, I love the country, I want to be there for the rest of my life, but I can imagine that people who stay there for 11th generation and they're white and they're very South African. So how do we say to them, like, oh, you are part of us and you will be here until time itself?
Yes, I mean, I think that it is right to be concerned. It's your country. It's important also to say that, you know, somebody said, we learn from history that we don't learn from history. We don't learn the lessons that we ought to be learning. At home, one of the problems is we imagined that we would be, I mean, all of us would be wonderfully caring of each other. Nothing of the sort. I mean, there are people who are greedy, people who have become very, 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 very wealthy. Originally, you would put a line and say, here are the rich on this side, here are the poor on this side. All the rich are white and the poor are black. Today, no. You are beginning to have a mix. And many of the people who have become rich have not become rich in a fashion that is legal.
Are you disappointed about this?
Well, I cry. I mean, that, and that is why, I mean, they said I had an outburst. I said, what is happening, or what has happened to us? What is happening to our country? What is happening that, the police should do what they did in Marikana? What is happening when you can have a young man who eggs people on to do wrong things, and they listen to him?
And you have the phone numbers of the people who are in charge. Did you call President Zuma and say, what the hell is going on there?
Well, I have said so. As it happens, last week I was at a funeral, and the president was sitting there in front of me, and I said, no, I'm not attacking you, I'm just asking. And he said, no, we need, I said, what is happening? What is happening? What is happening to us? You know, it is not something where you point fingers at others. You say, it is us.
What did he say?
It is us. And he said he agreed. What he asked, the question, he agreed that that is the question to be asked. But he said, the next question that we should ask, quite rightly, is what do we do about it? And he then said there that we must make an appointment. He wants to meet with me so that we begin to talk about what do we do.
You are called the moral conscience of South Africa, and therefore my question is, what's your greatest moral difference between you and Mr. Zuma?
I don't think, I mean, we don't have, I mean, it's just that he really is a charming person. He's very warm, but yeah. I accept that he is my president now, and I have to show him the respect that is due to the head of state of my country. But with the kind of things that had already happened, I mean, that he was charged with rape, he was charged with corruption. I said those things, upset me. And I would prefer a different kind of leader.
Here.
I'm from Eritrea, but I grew up here.
Yes.
And I actually wanted to ask you, what do you think of governmental aid to Africa? Does it, what do you think of it? Do you think it works, or do you think...
It depends on who is administering it. I mean, quite clearly, it has worked. I mean, many of our children would have died. Many people would have died of AIDS if we hadn't had the resources, or, I mean, what the Americans gave. Many people would not have been educated. Many people would, I mean, so many things have happened which would not have happened if there hadn't been the aid. What certainly has to be put clearly is that we have governments that use resources abominably badly. That doesn't make the aid in and of itself bad. But I know so very many instances where it has done outstanding work. And I gather here that you have parties that say it should not be...
The Liberal Party in the Netherlands has said, let's get €3 billion out of the budget, yes. 1 billion will stay, that's enough. And you opposed.
Well,
you said...
Well, you know, we should just tell them. There's a lovely little story about heaven and hell. This person was given a tour of heaven and hell. And when they came to hell, they saw that there was a huge feast going on, or it should have been going on, but it was people sitting round a table piled high with food. And the people sitting around there were miserable and thin because they were eating, or supposed to be eating, with long-handled spoons. Now, the people in hell, they would dig into the food and they couldn't get to the food. And then this person went to heaven and he saw a replica of what was in hell. The table with people sitting there with food on the table, but the people in heaven were enjoying themselves and they were nice and fat because the one would say, choop, and feed the one opposite. And that one on that side would scoop and feed the other person. Beware. Beware when you think only of yourself. You are going to...
Beautiful story. Okay.
Done.
No, I have a surprise for you.
Have.
Please sit.
Sorry.
No. You're not done with us. You're not done. Listen. You were talking about hell, and the next person that will speak to you is speaking about...
It's from hell.
No. Not at all. No, not at all. Listen, you know her very well. You are one of the 10 members of the Elders, an organization of former heads of state, prime ministers, people who travel the world into crisis areas. Wise people like you. Yes, I think so.
He said this publicly. Did you hear him? Can you
yes,
write
I'll give it to you in writing. Stamp it and signature too. The person who was leading this organization in London as the CEO is Princess Mabel van Oranje. We haven't heard from her in the longest time, and I called her and we asked her, we have Desmond Tutu on the show, could we talk to you? Which she said yes to. This is what she had to say about you. Have a look. Hoe heeft u Desmond Tutu leren kennen? Jullie noemen hem de Arch, geloof ik. Hoe heeft u hem leren kennen? Arch.
Ik heb hem leren kennen tijdens het sollicitatieproces voor de baan als CEO van de Elders. But wait, I don't think Arch will like it very much if we speak Dutch. I mean, if we speak about somebody, I think in this case we should definitely speak in the language he understands.
Okay, we'll switch.
Good.
Good. So he was on the committee that selected you. Was he tough for you?
I've never had a job interview that started with prayer. But that's the kind of man he is. He's very spiritual. He's obviously a moral authority. And what is important comes first.
Could you characterize him for the people, although I don't think they exist, who don't know him?
I think many of us know him for his laughter, for his sense of humor, for the moral courage that he has. And I don't think there are many people who, like him, can make you laugh and cry. And he can do that not just for people like me or other ordinary people, but he can also do that for presidents, his fellow elders. So that is quite unique, I think.
What do you think is his biggest strength?
His biggest strength is that he will never give up standing up for those whose rights are being denied. And he will use all the qualities and the access and the power that he has to make the world a better place for all.
And the other side of his character, does he have any weakness?
Hot chocolate. The amount of times when we were traveling and the meeting has to stop because he needs a hot chocolate.
He can't function?
He has a sweet tooth.
Okay. Is she right? Do you need some choco? Here it is. It's coming up for you, hot chocolate.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Do you miss her in the organization after the accident that happened with Prince Friso?
Yes, Mabel is amazing. I mean, she's got a very creative mind, very orderly. Yeah, and I mean it is tough that since February. I spoke to her yesterday, day before yesterday, and yes, in fact she was speaking to me from her husband's ward. Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah, it's a terrible thing to see him. I mean, to see your husband lie there, and Oh, well, she did say there on another day, she said she kissed him and he moved a bit. But yeah, it's tough. It's really tough.
What can you do for her?
Well, I pray and I try to chat with her regularly, just to let her know that we love her and care for her.
She has a message for you. This is the last part of the interview that I did with her. Please listen to her. You left the elders. Do you still talk a lot to each other? Do you still meet or speak on the telephone?
Yeah, very frequently.
How important are those conversations with him?
He is an inspiration for me and for many others, and he'll always be. And he's also in these difficult times a great comfort.
Would you like to say anything to him on camera?
Of course. In the camera kijken?
Sure.
Yeah. Give me 1 second. Dear Arch, you are a wonderful example and a great inspiration for so many of us, and definitely for me. I'm incredibly grateful for everything you do for the world, for humanity, for everything you teach us, for showing us what it means to be a human being, for the courage. And I hope that in whatever shape and form, I will be able to continue to work with you for many, many more years to come. The world needs you, and I love you.
Thank you. Yeah, she's a fantastic person. There are very many good people in the world, you know. We see so much that is bad. And that is quite right. I mean, that we are appalled by the bad things that we see. You are not very good at telling good stories, you know, stories of goodness.
Do you mean the press, the media, or?
I mean, you are better at giving stories of shooting in Marikana. You don't easily tell the stories of people working in a clinic, people helping to teach others to learn English or Dutch or whatever.
We have a good story lined up for you, because we want to say and show what is happening in your life. And one of the projects you have with somebody who is in this room as well is a Dutch guy who almost looks like you a little bit. He speaks like you, Harold Robles, and he has projects in South Africa. Let's have some good news then from South Africa.
Yes.
And look at the projects you do together.
You move your condom up, then you take it out.
Can you use your teeth to open the package?
What's gonna happen if you use your teeth? You might bite the condom, but it's not. And what you do, you roll it down.
I learned a lot about how to use a condom and why they leave the space.
We're learning about drugs.
It makes you high and have this feeling that you are only one living.
He told you no drugs. So no drugs. Is the deal?
Yes.
Okay, sir.
Good to see you again.
How are you?
I'm fine, my friend.
Hij heeft mij hierheen gehaald. En 11 jaar later zitten we hier met 5 grote centra's. En we trainen per jaar ongeveer 6.000-7.000 health teachers.
Puberty is the period in which you develop from a little girl or little boy to an adult.
I have a question. What's the cause of a girl to menstruate twice a month?
I didn't know that it's possible for a girl to fall pregnant in the age of 12 or, you know. I thought that a girl can fall pregnant in the age of 18 and older.
He's a great person.
a leader, an inspiration for all South Africans.
A good story from Africa.
Beautiful, beautiful. Harold is amazing. I mean, you know, the MKI, Medical Knowledge Institute, is doing a fantastic job of work, and I want to pay him a very, very warm tribute for the things that he's doing. Now, that is aid working.
Here, first.
Mr. Tutu, what do you think tourism does to South Africa?
It brings in money and beautiful girls, and we have a very beautiful country. We have a very ugly country as well. I mean, Cape Town is one of the most beautiful places, but Cape Town also has some very, very ugly places. Poverty, squalor, cheek by jowl with wealth. It can, you know, God took a great deal of time creating South Africa.
It's a beautiful country, it's true.
It can bring in unworthy kinds of standards and things. But it's up to us to choose whether we allow it to be a bad thing or to be a good thing.
Hiervoor.
Mr. Tutu, I wondered who was your main teacher on the topic of forgiveness and what you want to share with us on that very special topic.
The world is a world that is so desperately needing forgiveness and reconciliation. Here, you do have problems about people who are not your color, who are Dutch by citizenship legally, but are not accepted fully, and you don't accept easily, not yourselves, refugees, you know, and the world needs desperately to know that, you know, we're actually made for fellowship. We're made, it's a discovery that we ought to be making. We're made to be one family. We're meant to be family. And it's a lesson we're not learning. We operate in many ways as if we were in the jungle. And we say survival of the fittest, whereas we ought to be saying the weakest must be first. God is trying to teach us that lesson. We're not learning it quickly enough. We think that we are at our best when we beat up all the competition. Yes, there is something to be said for being competitive, but ultimately, it is especially how we treat the weakest. How compassionate, how caring are we, especially for the weakest? And since I'm an oldie, how do you treat your oldies?
You recently made some very interesting remarks about leadership. Let's see what led up to it. These are two men who were leaders of the so-called free world. Let's have a look.
It concludes that Iraq has chemical and biological weapons, that Saddam has continued to produce them, that he has existing and active military plans for the use of chemical and biological weapons, which could be activated within 45 minutes including against his own Shia population.
The only possible explanation, the only possible use he could have for those weapons is to dominate, intimidate, or attack.
There recently was a conference in South Africa. Tony Blair was going to be there as well, and you said, no, I cannot sit next to him. Why not?
He knows, President Bush knows, they lied. They ought to apologize to the world for lying to the world, you know, and claiming, as they did, that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. And that is why he went to the Security Council to get the approval of Security Council for the attack. And the Security Council said no. And I phoned the White House.
Just before the attack on Iraq?
Yeah.
You tried to get Bush on the phone?
I did, yes.
Did you get him?
No, I didn't get him. But I got Condoleezza Rice.
The Secretary of State?
She said to me, she didn't think that the president would be willing to postpone the invasion. And look at the consequences now. I mean, you... Only the most cynical would say Baghdad is a better place now than it was before 2003. And one was then saying, I mean, what does this say about the International Court of
We have it in The Hague, the International Court of Justice, because you stated, you wrote in an article in The Guardian that it maybe would be a good idea to have Tony Blair and George W. Bush in the court in The Hague. Do you think of them as criminals in this case?
Let them answer for themselves.
You are saying Bush and Blair go to The Hague and explain your case, stand in court.
They really ought to say to the world, sorry, we lied to you.
Very clear. Will President Obama be the next president of the United States, you think? Will he be re-elected?
Well, I mean, the alternative is... I mean, you can't imagine somebody saying 47% of the electorate I have given up on. I mean, they will never vote for me. And to say, I mean, to be so dismissive, saying that it's people who depend, it's painful.
Is it stupidity?
No, I mean, it's just, where is his heart? Where is his heart? I mean, what does he think of? I mean, the fact that you are poor doesn't make you less human. Many of the poorest people I know are some of the proudest people. I mean, it's awful.
Yeah.
It's an arrogance that is mind-blowing.
What is the best advice you can give to the students here, the people watching at home, from almost 81 years of wisdom and experience?
Yes. Always, I am incredibly inspired by young people. I just love you. I mean, young people you are incredible, really. You are idealistic. You dream dreams. Don't be infected by the cynicism of oldies. Believe that this world can become a better world. A world where there is room for everyone. A world where you have the capacity to include all and not be shaken and be scared by the successes of others. Dream of a world where, as you say, poverty is history, where everyone knows that they have a place in the sun. Dream, because you actually get to be adults too quickly, and you forget your dreams. Dream, because it's amazing actually how God has used over the ages, especially young people. And God wants to use you, and 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 you, to make this the kind of world God wants it to be, a beautiful world for all.
Desmond Tutu. Mr. Tutu, 1 second. Oh yeah, if you're gonna dance. I'm just gonna say, thank you so much. Next week on our show, we have another guest. She's the most beautiful violin player in the Netherlands, Janine Jansen. En aanmelden voor Janine Jansen kan nog. Kijk naar de website hieronder in beeld, collegetour.ntr.nl. En aanmelden ook voor David Sedaris, Amerikaans schrijver. En Sonja Barend komt ook nog. I would like to thank you so much for your time and being to Holland. I don't know if it's the last time, but please come back. And thank you so much for all your wisdom in this show, College Tour. Thank you, Desmond Tutu.
NTR, speciaal voor iedereen.